What is the most extreme Darwin Award act you have witnessed? What was the aftermath? Had a client told over and over again that he cannot smoke while using oxygen. Told his doctor, told all of his caseworkers, told all of his family. You will literally burn and die if you keep lighting cigarettes while your cannula is in, you dumbass. Sure enough, he ends up admitted to the ER with severe facial burns and plastic tubing melted deep into what little remained of his skin. He lingered in the ICU for a couple of days and died. Set his own damn face on fire after a dozen warnings. He didn't even have to quit smoking, all he had to do was take the tubing off before he lit up. Darwin Award. Oh man, that is always my fear. I am a medical social worker and I see patients in their homes, and so many of them are smoking with their oxygen on. It scares the crap out of me and they don't want to hear me telling them it's very bad. They justify it by saying, well, I'm going to die anyway. Well, yeah, but let's not make it a group trip, okay? This dumbass friend of my BIL thought he was Superman and could leap over a raging bonfire despite nearly 20 people telling him it's a bad idea. Idiot backed up 3 steps and then tried to jump up and over the 6 feet raging fire. Of course, what we all knew would happen did happen, and Super Moron landed right in the middle of the fire, knocking it down and spreading hot ashes and burning embers everywhere. He got burned so badly in multiple places that we now refer to him as third degree. Not exactly witness, but expected outcome. Was studying in dorm room in college. Guy I'm friendly with comes in and asks if I want to snort some Vivarin. Correct answer of no given. He proceeds to chop and snort it in front of me. Does not look fun. Then he asks if I want to go swimming in an irrigation ditch, as it is super hot. I am at a rural college in central CA and we are surrounded by orchards. They use irrigation ditches to get water out to the orchards. These can be quite deep. But the thing is they also go under roads and bridges. They tend to have filtration screens so debris does not get under road bridge. If you get stuck up against the filter, el mort. So I of course explain this to my Vivarin snorting friend. He claims to be a sailor and will not have a problem. A few hours later I hear about expected outcome. My father worked at an automotive parts plant. A steel bumper got caught in the press and a guy removed the safety guards and crawled in. A second guy saw this and went after him to pull him out. The press fell and they both got crushed beyond recognition. Never bypass any safety guard. Watched a lady slam into a pole and the pole snaps and falls across the hood. The transformer slams the ground and the wires are draped across the car. She jumps out and starts pulling wires off the truck while I'm running and yelling, "Stop! Stop! Don't you dash!" And she gets electrocuted and thrown on her ass. I've already called 911 by this point and told them the situation. She's completely unresponsive as I'm slapping her face and checking her pulse. I realize she has 2 kids in the truck and now I'm terrified they're going to be electrocuted, so I yell at them to not move. My friend starts CPR, we're ex-lifeguards, on the lady and I get to the kids. Not knowing what wires do what, I got them to climb out the back window into the truck bed. At that moment, the mom suddenly wakes up and immediately attacks my friend. We're wrestling this deranged hair-burnt alcohol-smelling lady to the ground so she doesn't electrocute herself again when a police officer arrives. He and the EMTs took everything from there, as we explained everything. Apparently the woman was drunk as hell at 3 p.m. and drove her and her kids into a telephone pole after a fight with the dad, who had custody of them. Honestly, I can't believe she was still alive. That shock should have toasted her. As a note, if any vehicle hits electricity apparatus, Oychels et al., your best bet is to stay in it until someone from the utility comes along. If you have to get out of it a 2-footed jump, make sure you are not in contact with the vehicle and the ground at the same time. This happens more often than you would think with combines and farm equipment. On an African safari we drove by a hippo pond. Hippos, in case you don't know, are the biggest killer of humans in Africa. So we're being cautious, respectful, all that jazz. We start driving off. As we go, a truck pulls up and this group of tourists comes charging out, whooping, hooting, and hollering. They're like, "OMG hippos! Selfie time!" They go wading in the water and are generally just being huge dicks. Last thing I saw before we drove away was one of the hippos breaking off from the main group, heading ominously towards them. In the days following, I tried to find reports of hippo attacks on tourists, but couldn't find anything, so maybe nothing happened. Pro tip though, guys, if you ever see a hippopon, leave them the fuck alone. They absolutely can kill you. This was a ways back, but some tree huggers were protesting a freight train that was passing through that was carrying a nuclear warhead to someplace. So of course, some a-hole decided he could stop the train by sitting on the tracks. Just after a curve where the train couldn't possibly see him in time, thinking the train was going to stop like a truck if you were blocking a road. This dumb fuck actually stayed on the track when he saw it wasn't going to stop, had more than plenty of time to move out of the way, and lost both legs, then was blaming them afterwards. That was a whole new level of dumbfuckery I never knew existed. Yeah, it's surprising how many people don't realize it takes like a mile for most trains to come to a complete stop. Developing country plants, people will crawl into large pipes tanks and take naps and end up getting trapped. Not uncommon to find a dead human clogging up your pipes a few months later. A few weeks ago, a guy from out the road was overtaking a truck on the M18 and tried to make the exit. It's not a full high-speed exit, it's 90 degrees and you really have to slow down for this one. But for whatever reason he was still in the passing lane. So he pulled front of the truck, hit the brakes, and didn't make it. Trucks can't stop on a dime. It plowed into his van, flipping it and sending him and his van about 20 meters up the embankment. It took the services a few hours to pick all the pieces of him off the road. My dad is a safety specialist at a printing company. He had a few good stories, but this one really takes the cake. So, one day at work, some dude notices a rattlesnake on company grounds. Some people are called, and a small crowd of other employees gathers to take a look at it from a safe distance. Everything is under control. Then one of the employees gets a great idea. He rushes at the snake and attempts to grab it with his bare hands. This went about as well as you would expect. One that comes to mind in my own life. My buddy and I were walking along these train tracks. All is well, no trains, just having a stroll. So we come to this bridge and we laugh. Remember that scene in Stand By Me where they have to run from the train? Haha, that would never happen. So instead of heeding common sense, we begin to cross the bridge. It's not massive, perhaps 500 m or so. And we're about halfway when, well, you all know where this was going. A train is coming behind us. Now I looked and noticed that the train was on the opposite set of tracks. So I was convinced that, while we were in pretty serious danger, if we didn't make it we probably wouldn't die as long as we didn't get sucked under somehow. Alas, we still ran like hell and my buddy was ahead of me screaming, laughing, "Run, dude, run!" So we booked it as fast as we could. Now remember, we could have actually ran towards the train and got off the bridge much easier lol, but instinct I suppose said run from the oncoming train. So we ran and ran without looking back. He made it off about 2 to 3 seconds before me, and then I made it just in time for the train to whiz past. As I suspected, it was on the other tracks, so we were relatively safe unless the wind force had sucked us in. However, as I stood there, quite close to the tracks still, within literally 2 seconds of the train coming, another train whizzed past on the tracks we were on. So had we not started running right when we did, or if we fell, one or both of us would have died. That would be the guy in my town who tried to surf a tsunami a few years ago. It ended about how you'd expect. I didn't personally see it go down, but I went to the same school as him. Me and my buddy. We decided to go rock climbing. Only problem was we didn't bring our gear because we have no gear because we are not rock climbers. So we get about halfway up this 40-foot face and realize we just crossed the line between bravery and stupidity. Can't climb up any higher, can climb back down. Luckily there were people there that were rock climbers who came to rescue us. They said we were idiots, to which we immediately agreed. You're really lucky you survived and they were there to help you. Hope you at least bought them a 6-pack after. Why not actually learn how to use gear if you're interested in climbing? We use gear for a reason lol. 2 guys I went to high school with were apparently out on a boat along a river. They decided they wanted to walk across a bridge for freight trains for some insane reason. They dock their boat and climb up to walk on the bridge. Well, sure enough, a train comes. I don't know the full details, but from what I understand, one jumped off and the other tried running for it but didn't make it in time and got creamed by the train. Took them 2 days to search for him. Didn't see the act itself, but saw the aftermath. Had to go clean up a body fluid in the ER of the hospital I worked at. Guy had climbed over a razor wire topped fence to get into some restricted area, I think a water district pump house. On the way in he slipped, and the razor wire sliced his scrotum open. The fluid I was cleaning up was a mix of blood, urine, and what I can only assume was leakage from his colon. Keep in mind, the Darwin Award is for people who remove themselves from the gene pool, through one method or another. I've seen many accidents where people died because of their rash driving, but one incident stands out and scares me even now. Two youngsters on a bike with no helmets were driving rashly at 90 kilometers per hour, and they decided not to slow down on a curve. So the guy who was driving it tried to overtake some car from the left but hit the car's side mirror and fell down. Their heads hit the ground and they split open with all their brains being spilled out. It was a horrible sight. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.